What kind of entrepreneur are you? I'm Alex Wehrley, and here to help us answer that question, Jay Rosenzweig. He is the CEO of Rosenzweig and Company. So first of all, you believe there are two types of entrepreneurs. What are they?
I think essentially there are two buckets of entrepreneurs. The first bucket I would call the parenting entrepreneur. What does that mean? It means someone who came up with a business idea, ran with it, enjoyed enduring the early stages of raising capital and building the team, but also thrives in seeing it through to a level of maturity for years and years to come very often. And the second kind of entrepreneur is the serial entrepreneur, or what I would call the serial entrepreneur, the individual who actually thrives at the early to growth stage, enjoys and has the stomach for over and over and over again starting up a business, raising capital, developing the relationships needed and the teams needed for that kind of endeavor, and has the stomach to do it again. And that actually also has implications for an individual who is starting out aspiring to be an entrepreneur. People always ask me, how should I go about this? And the first question I ask them is, intuitively, do you see yourself as a parenting entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur? And it also has implications as regards one of the businesses I run, and that is the executive talent management business. Because if you're that serial entrepreneur, it'll have implications on who you want to hire and the kinds of individuals you want to hire. Because if you do move on to your next endeavor, you're going to want to ensure that the business is in the right hands. If you're the parenting entrepreneur, it might be a different kind of executive team that you'll be looking to build.
Interesting. Okay, so some people who are watching are probably going, oh, I know I'm a parent entrepreneur, or I know I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Right.
For those who are watching who don't know, let's go over some of the pros and cons to each.
Right.
So starting with parent entrepreneur.
So parent entrepreneur, for the right individual, it's the right slot for them. But if you're more the serial entrepreneur who gets juiced up about the angst, frankly, but that's something you thrive on in terms of raising money, coming up with a new idea, getting to market. So if you're that kind of individual, you might get bored remaining in the same company up until maintenance mode, frankly, when the business is humming. Now, if you're more that individual who enjoys the resources that you've had as that parenting entrepreneur, with the larger size business that has begun to thrive and is somewhat in maintenance mode as opposed to the startup company, then you won't want that as a serial entrepreneur.
So it really depends on your personality.
It's really a personality thing.
Okay, so let's say that you decide that you are a parent entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you're just starting this company. What are some of those first steps that you would take knowing you're a parent entrepreneur?
So when you start a business, you inevitably will need to go through the stresses of early stage businesses, which means you may need to pivot in terms of your original concept because you might test it and it might not work. You might not be able to raise exactly the kind of capital that you wanted to. There's all kinds of things that you'll have to go through, but if in the end you're able to withstand that and have the right advisors around you who can help you through that earlier phase, then that's the way you can ultimately thrive. But you need to have the right people around you, and you need to recognize that asking for help is actually a strength and not a weakness. I find that in my line of business, very often businesses that don't succeed are victims of founders who had too much ego to admit at a certain point of time that they actually needed the help to take the company forward, to help them mitigate certain kinds of risks and get them to the next levels.
Well, since you're an expert in this, how do you hire the right team?
So you need to begin with understanding what the business strategy is. It's not so much about taking orders as a recruiter. You need to understand, where are you looking to go? What sorts of sectors do you want to be selling into? What's the overall strategy? And once the talent management advisor is aligned with the founder and investors on what they want to achieve moving forward, the talent advisor can then develop a research strategy which is customized to meet the business objectives at play. And when you are aligned with business objective in that way, you're able to develop a finite pool of candidates that match exactly the kinds of objectives you're looking to meet. As opposed to, okay, you're in a certain kind of business, I'll find you a certain kind of individual. It might be that the best kind of candidate, let's say you're selling into the retail space, would need to be from a particular sector that would benefit the retail space, but not the obvious candidates from certain pools.
Okay, so then how does it differ for being a serial entrepreneur, both backing up those first steps when you become a serial entrepreneur and hiring the right team?
So for a serial entrepreneur, succession planning is probably the biggest focus. Because if you're going to move on to a new gig, you need to make sure that the people you hire under you have the opportunity to take over the business. So the recruiting objective is a little bit different, and the selling points to candidates is a little bit different, because you're hiring someone who will be perhaps a number two, but only for a certain finite amount of time. That candidate will know that eventually, if they perform and they thrive, they'll be able to take over the business. But for the parenting entrepreneur, if you hire a COO, let's say, that person might be a perpetual number two, or would need to move on to a different company if they've outgrown that COO role.
Awesome. All right. Which one are you? Serial or parent entrepreneur? Thank you so much for all of your insight. My guest, Jay Rosenzweig, he is the CEO of Rosenzweig and Company, and we are here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. I'm Alex Wehrley, and this is Business Rockstars.